Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I watched an AJ Goodman video yesterday, him talking about the case, the Seth Rich case. And for the most part, the DNCs and the mainstream media is complete pretending it doesn't exist. Going full-throated debunking. Now, there's an interesting dynamic here that I think we should look at. But I have a message for AJ Goodman first. The first 5 minutes of your video, dude, was you trying to affirm who you are. Saying that they took your article down and that you had nothing but love for Huffington Post. They took your article down and you over and over again affirmed, I was on this, I did this, I put these articles out, I did all this before Sanders. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to affirm yourself to anybody but yourself. And I understand that being in a particular medium, you want the affirmation of what you do. Everybody wants to be self-affirmed in what they do, meaning how they think the world perceives them. They want the world to perceive them a particular way, particularly if they have a particular opinion of themselves. Now, here's the catch. This works both ways because you can make an argument for both. You can say, if I have low self-esteem and I'm looking to get some kind of affirmation from outside of me, then yes, I want them to affirm what I did was good. I think what I did was good. I think what I'm on to is good. These guys are saying that I am not something. Meaning, I need that external admiration of sorts. So I need that external affirmation to kind of affirm who I am because I don't have enough of who I am to affirm it for myself. But the second part is, you can have an extremely strong ego. And say, take the exact same position of, these people are saying something that's not true. And I need to affirm who I am because I have this very clear impression of who I am and the caliber of work that I do. They're attacking me in this sense, trying to undermine that. So you can see it from either way. So I'm not making this case of this is a weak self-esteem or strong self-esteem. The argument I'm making is it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Anybody that watched you for the most part, they give you a certain amount of credence. You have a huge subscriber base that show that those people are giving you a certain amount of credence. You have been on RT. You have been doing HuffPost. You have been doing Salon. You've been doing all these things for God knows how long. You don't need to affirm yourself. Your body of work affirms it. You will always have people to take shots at you. It doesn't matter what you say. I've watched videos where the person was as mild and neutral as can be and the people still dislike the video. There's no way out. Here's the catch. Depending upon what you're talking about, though, you're going to get a certain amount of pushback, but you can't necessarily let that pushback force you to try to reaffirm your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your body of work speaks for itself. And I know you may feel some kind of somewhat self-conscious about the Hillary Clinton thing because it didn't materialize. The whole Hillary Clinton is going to be indicted, she's going to be locked up and everything else. But that doesn't necessarily need to mandate you recount this stuff. I guess all I'm saying is, as we watched it, there was a point where I'm saying, dude, if you tell me one more time that you put articles out in the Huffington Post, I'm going to cut this TV off. And on cue, you explained it again. You don't need to do that. That's all I'm saying. You're the people who like you and pay attention to you, bake that into the cake when they're having this conversation about you or listening to things that you say. Your pedigree is affirmed. I guess that's all I'm saying. In regards to trying to get this mainstream media to look at you in a favorable way, I don't know if that's going to get you anywhere. Ultimately, the sandbox to which you operate is always going to be antagonistic towards mainstream media. You're never going to get all these people on your side. But is that your goal? Meaning, if it's not your goal, then you don't need to consistently affirm yourself. If it is your goal, then you're always going to be frustrated because it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You will be required to toe a very particular line if you're going to be the darling of mainstream media in that sense. You will always have detractors. Always. It doesn't matter what you do. You will always have detractors. Any position, and you have a strong ego. So any position where you're putting something out into the world, you're going to get pushback on it. It doesn't matter what it is. Whether you're right or not has nothing to do with it. Mainstream media is pushing back on this because they have incentives to push back on it. So yes, they're going to say it's bunk. They're going to say it's conspiracy theory. They're going to say all of the typical pejoratives that they use to try to delegitimize the story because they themselves are invested in the story. They're not a neutral partner in this conversation. They've taken a narrative. If that narrative proves to be wrong, their narrative, essentially they've been lying for 4 months or 5 months. Do you honestly believe the mainstream media is going to come on and say, oh, you got us, we're complete liars and we're in the tank for the political establishment? They're not going to say that. So yes, they're going to try to debunk you. They're going to try to smear you. Yes, all those things are going to take place. All those things are going to take place just because they have something invested in it. But that doesn't require you to affirm yourself. That's all I'm saying. It's like the thing that you're trying to affirm is already baked into the cake for the people who are listening to you. For the people who are against you, they're against you for some other reason. It has nothing to do, you're recounting your experience. It's not necessarily going to bring them over to your side. That's all I'm saying. That's friendly advice for somebody who actually likes you. That's the first part. The second part of this is, I've been seeing pretty good breakdowns on people undermining this quote-unquote debunking thing. Holly, Siegler did a really good one where she did a takedown piece of this guy on CNN trying to debunk the story. That particular piece for H.A. Goodman. Once he got past this whole, really, I am a true reporter. I am an actual real reporter. I'm a journalist. I've done all these really good things. They took down my article, those bastards, but ultimately, yes, I'm really good. Once you get past that part, then yeah, he has decent information in it. And he's been on the story. He's been Johnny on the spot on this story and on the other WikiLeaks stories in the past. Yeah, man, those are, it's funny. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Independent media. The fact that CNN is responding to this is amazing and should make you feel good about yourself. So think of it in the sense of, it was the Aliens film. And I made a reference to this the other day where the guy was, this older guy, he was in a wheelchair and the alien looked at him and then just kind of walked off. And the guy just completely indignant, how dare you walk away from me? You will kill me like you killed the others. That's kind of the way it is. It's like the fact that they acknowledge your presence to some degree acknowledges that you do indeed have a presence. Why are all these people spending all this time trying to debunk a story that they've, for the most part, considered didn't exist? The very fact that they're talking about it and needing to use words like the story is debunked, why does the story keep coming up? Who are they talking to in regards to the story is coming up? Who are they talking to? Yes, in some degree they're talking to right-wing media, but they're also talking to progressive media. Progressive in the media, for the most part, has not let that shit die down. They are dealing with two fronts or two sides that are saying, look, there's something here. This looks fishy to us. When you have the political establishment and the media establishment saying, there's nothing to see here. This was everything to do with Russia. There's nothing to see here. The fact that they're acknowledging the story and the fact that they're saying we have to debunk it, and I'm saying they're acknowledging it in the negative, but they're acknowledging it nonetheless, to some degree gets across this idea of presence. Screaming at the top of your lungs, influencing other people's opinion on this, is enough to break that bubble. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking about the story at all. They would just blissfully go away. For instance, they're not talking about the DNC fraud lawsuit. They're not mentioning the sides. They're not mentioning. It's not even on the table in regards to discussion. Why are they consistently mentioning the Seth Rich thing? Because they're mentioning it for some reason. What I'm getting at is the reason that they're mentioning it is because ultimately the conversation they're having is with us and right-wing media. They're not having this conversation in a vacuum. Otherwise, they wouldn't even bring it up. That's all I'm saying. The fact that they're talking about it is to some degree somewhat of a victory in the sense of independent media. That's all I mean. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.